IWM is down a standard deviation today. A little bit more. It's 1.1 standard deviation move today. Kind of more volatile than I was expecting. Because I've been like the Russell, I think of all the indices is the one that I like to trade the most, just because like the volatility tends to be higher compared to like the Qs and SPY. I think like a lot of the time. And this one has kind of been selling off a little bit more since the start of the year than I kind of noticed. So going to be watching this one for the rest of the week. We had like we had a pretty big move on the 8th, but since then it's been some pretty moderate moves in the middle. But definitely, I think like 40% of the last 2 weeks have been bigger than a standard deviation in terms of its actual returns, bigger than 1.43%, which is a historical returns volatility since 2015. So going to be watching that one. I have an XBI position on and a Russell position on right now. So I think this is going to be one to watch. Watching some Netflix. This one I think is a little bit of a sleeper sell because like it's a little bit of sleeper cell, and that makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because we saw that a couple times where it would have like really chill moves, and then earnings would be like a 3 standard deviation move.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes me nervous because we have not seen a lot of volatility in Netflix. I have not checked the IVR, but we can check that in a minute. I don't know.
It's 53.
It's 53. Okay, so like at least volatility has scaled a decent amount leading up to earnings, so at least you get compensated for taking on that kind of risk. But this is the kind of stuff that makes you a little bit nervous when you just get like that 3 sigma move out of absolutely nowhere. But yeah, Netflix, I feel like a little bit of a sleeper cell right now. Boeing actually calmed down a little bit after this 3 standard deviation move that we had.
Mean, how does the door just rip off your plane? Come on.
They grounded a couple other planes and they're like, oh, we found a couple loose bolts. And I'm like, that's horrifying.
Don't fly Air Alaska is all I gotta say.
Oh, bro, I'm like, this makes me so nervous. And Boeing has just been like hammered for like a while now. So after that Boeing Max stuff, and they're just having like some real serious quality control issues that people are really paying attention to because I think it makes most people uncomfortable to be in a big, highly pressurized metal tube in the sky. Yeah.
I wonder, how did Airbus do during, I wasn't looking, but I wonder if they went up just because like, what's Airbus ticker? I'm sure they trade. It's just, they've actually been down too. I don't know. They're down a slight amount, but over the past 5 days, they've actually been up.
Got a 3 standard deviation door ripper, that's right. And then it just kind of chills out. I mean, chilling out is down another 1.4%, down another 1.5%, but that is chilling out compared to that. So those are those opportunists. Those are those opportunists getting in there. I am not trying to be better about being one of those. I was not touching this with a 10-foot pole, but some people definitely made some money from that. Looking at Amazon over the last 2 weeks, Amazon, a little sleeper cell. We had like a 2% move to the downside, 2.6% move to the upside. Not the biggest moves in the world. It's about a little bit more than 1 standard deviation. So not a ton. We're seeing a little bit of a rally. We had 1%, 1.5% to the upside, 1.5% to the other. And then, I don't know, a little bit moderate move in Amazon. This is an interesting one. Apple, we're kind of seeing a similar story where we did have one big move to the upside on the 8th and then kind of like more moderate moves in between. So definitely going to be watching that one. Nice to see that everything tech related has calmed down a little bit since then. And we can see that we're down 1% in Apple today, but not as much of a move as you would potentially expect given all that CPI information, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be, What were you going to say?
What do you think about Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, RCL?
Do you want to pull it up? Do you want to take a look at it?
Yeah, we can. All right, let's
you want to take a look at your platform? Well, I think I have like a couple more slides.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say I don't trust. Okay. Because again, I started trading in 2020. So like airlines and cruise lines, it's rational, but I'm like kind of apprehensive about actually touching them. I don't want to be on a cruise in my whole life. If I go my whole life without ever being on a cruise ship, I will be happy. There's
yeah.
But we'll finish these up and then we'll take a look at some cruise lines. So Natty Gas, this is what kind of made my eyes pop out a little bit. Like, I don't know, Wile E. Coyote, I think was one cartoon that did. I don't know. But yeah, natural gas is like on another level of volatility. I'm really happy I got out of this actually, because we were coming off like at the end of last year. We were on our, I think like 7th or 8th consecutive down week in natural gas. And since then, and a lot of that was because of like oversupply or like just more supply than expected, because like Europe's winter was, I think Western Europe's winter was warmer than expected. So it was just kind of down for a while, like just kind of bleeding. And now it's like the exact opposite. So 60% of the moves in the last 2 weeks have been bigger than a standard deviation, which is 3.7% since 2015 for natural gas. So today we're at like a 1.5 standard deviation move. This is, and predominantly to the upside. We had a 7% move to the upside a couple of days ago. So, and I think that was the day that Jonathan was deciding whether or not to keep it on. So here we are. We had a little bit of a sell-off in the middle, but I think like, oh, that is what we looked at. So on that day, what we looked at, and I can pull the stat up in a minute. We looked at historical statistics for, at the time it was a 2 standard deviation move. I think it closed and sold off a little bit. But if you have a 2 standard deviation move today, what's the probability that you have another one in the next 2 weeks or the next 10 days, right? Or 10 trading days, right? Yeah. So I think that probability was around like 66%, something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you have a 2 standard deviation move today, there's pretty, for natural gas, because you get a lot of those like just big moves in a row. Like you see that in a lot of this autocorrelation in some of these commodities, that they just tend to like escalate really quickly. So my rationale was like, dude, if there's like a really like high probability of another big move to the upside or downside in the next couple of days, I wouldn't chance it personally. So I think we decided to close it. So this has been an interesting one to watch for sure. And I think we got our last slide and we got crude somehow so much calmer than natural gas. We kind of had like a little bit of a sell-off earlier this week, and since then, just kind of chilling out. We're up about 2% today. That's not even 3/4 of a standard deviation.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this thing? I don't know. Should we trade it? I don't know. But here we are. Virgin Natty Gas. I'm pretty glad I got out of that position, to be honest. Not sure if anybody else in chat on YouTube or the Bad Trader platform is going to be trading that, but if anybody else has anything that they want us to look at, feel free to shout those out. I think that's the rest of my slides. So if you want to look at Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, Jar of Dirt, whatever you said, we can take a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, just going off that natural gas, it's really like we see those like crazy moves. I guess we've had a lot of up days, but coming off of that down period, but they're really always playing, like a lot of these producers are always playing like catch up. So like if storage is really high, they'll like produce less to create like a supply demand effect. So like I feel like a lot of it's like predictable, but not like really. Like it takes time, you know. But yeah, if you're trading natural gas, definitely take into account Thursdays. I think it's 11 a.m. Central is when storage numbers come out. So
ish. This is why we baby trades, especially with the futures. Like I always I try to do with the futures options, it's like wide, always defined risk, and I try to cap like the BPR, like I'm not even the BPR, the max loss at like 400, just because like the volatility of the margin can get so volatile. So I'm like, I look at max loss as my actual like BPR that I should reserve for that for sure.
Facts,
not feelings.
So yeah, okay. So Royal Caribbean, all right, Carnival like 2 weeks ago had earnings, killed their earnings, like demolished it. So I'm like Royal Caribbean is better than Carnival in terms of like people wanting to go, and I guess like the type of customer they get is like, I guess like a higher end customer. And I've noticed that like a lot of like their business model has changed a lot.
Do you want me to show your platform?
Like, yeah, I think I'm sharing it now.
Yeah, let me give that to you real quick.
Gotcha. So their IVR is 43, pretty good. Because I was looking at like 2 weeks ago and it was like 20. They have earnings coming up February 6th. So I might not put it on just DX. I want, IVR to go up a little more going into earnings. But my thesis is basically like their business model after COVID has changed from like all inclusive to like having to like pay for like all these restaurants, a lot more like, I don't know, everything got more expensive apparently. So and it's like not much has changed. I mean, they're making new boats, like they're doing all this stuff. So apparently a lot of people have been going on them. So I'm thinking, doing a put spread on them, going to earnings. And I don't know. it's just kind of what I'm feeling. It's kind of my thesis. They're a little e-liquid when I guess not my two strikes I'm looking at, but I guess like liquidity rate ranking isn't crazy over here, 2 stars.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely something